Good morning and welcome to our Pleasure for Health podcast. My name is Ailsa Kepi and I am very excited to be here this morning talking to you about talking and how that can either make or break our relationship. So I decided to talk about this topic because I see so many people coming in and finding it really difficult to talk to their partner. And even if they do talk to their partner, they feel like they're not getting their point across, or they're not being heard, or they're not feeling like they can really express themselves clearly. And so they kind of give up, or they come to me and go, can't we just have a good relationship without having to do the talking thing? And my short answer is usually, well, probably not. But I also have some good options for you today about what you can do if talking is really not your strong point and communication is difficult for you in the verbal sense. So maybe there are some ways around that. There's some other things you can add to your verbal skills that will really up your game relationship wise. So stay tuned. We will be covering all of that today. So if you're interested in finding out more about me, my coaching, my practice, you can go to pleasureforhealth.com and find out everything there, book a consult if you're interested, and have a look at what I offer. So let's dive into this idea of talking and whether it really is necessary in a good relationship. So most relationship coaches and therapists, couples counselors will say that really learning to communicate well is probably 99% of a good relationship. And what does that actually mean? Does that mean that you have to become very good at talking and potentially listening, right? Which is the other the other side of talking. You have to have somebody who's listening. And this is also something that we will consider, because you may personally be quite good at talking but not very good at listening, and the other person might be good at listening but not very good at talking. And kind of becomes a one-sided relationship if things are always going one way. So let's look at this idea of talking. First of all, loads of people talk and it's just BS. It's not even worth listening to. You might know a lot of people like that just can go on and on and on, and it's really not giving you a clear picture of what they're saying. It's not improving your life or your experience of life in any kind of way. And it's just a lot of jargon. I was practicing Muslim for many, many years. Maybe some of you don't know that. But the Prophet Muhammad, and I'm not going to make this into a religious podcast at all. I don't continue to practice Islam, but it is interesting that Muhammad did have a saying about don't say anything, if you don't have something worth sharing. Like, don't just talk because you're there with someone. And I think that is definitely a true thing. If you talk, just to hear your own voice, and you don't actually have anything to say, potentially you don't have anything to say, but also the things that you might have to say that are important, your partner may not hear them or listen to them properly because they're so used to kind of tuning you out if you talk all the time. So I'm not saying you have to change your personality. If you're a talker and you like to kind of chatter away, that's fine. But remember that if and when you want to say something important, you might need to call attention to that. So that brings me to the first point here, which is something I started practicing with my kids, or maybe they started practicing with me, was that asking for the type of listening you want at a particular time can be very helpful. So if you are just, let's say you do want to chatter away about your day and you're all excited, you could say, hey, I would love to tell you about my day. If you could just kind of listen and take it in and hear me and just kind of be with me in my excitement about it. I don't really need an answer. I don't need you to say anything. I don't need you to fix anything. I just kind of want to tell you about my things. That's a kind of listening, kind of a passive listening, And if you love your partner, of course, and you have time, you might really enjoy hearing them chatter away about something they're excited about. So this this is kind of a passive listening. There's not much required of you as a listener, just kind of taking it in, letting it in one ear, out the other ear, and kind of nodding and smiling and being encouraging. And that is one type of listening. Another type of listening that comes up is when you really want to get something across. Like maybe you have a small frustration you want to bring up in your relationship, and you've been kind of holding it in for a while and it's building and you don't want it to just burst out in an uncontrolled way. So you've decided that it's the time to tell your partner, whatever it is, that they need to hang the dish towels up properly, or they need to, come in from work and, say hello to you and come and give you a kiss before they go off to the den and watch TV for an hour. Like whatever the frustration or the thing that is important for you to communicate, you need, it helps if you can come and say, I have something that is really on my mind, and I would love if you could pay attention to it and really take this in. This is something I want you to hear, and I want you to hear as a potential to a conversation to come up with a solution. So this is like asking for active listening, active engagement with what you're going to say. It's also preparing the person for the fact that, you might say, this is something I am frustrated about. You might even say that I would really love if you could take this in with an open mind, and I'm open to solutions. This is just something that I need you to hear that is important to me to look at a solution. Carrying on the way that we're going is not working for me, and I would like to collaborate on a solution. So you're engaging the other person in a collaborative solution process, which is way different than just coming at them with a bunch of words and not preparing them for being in that space. And if you've ever had to listen at a job or, with a friend, or while you're building a shed or something like that, to kind of that collaborative solution process, that is a very active process where you have to kind of have some energy and be involved. So not all timing works for that. If it's 9 p.m. at night and you've just put your 3 kids down for sleep and you've had a really long day, it might not be the time to bring up the collaborative solution type of conversation. But you could say, I'd like to have a collaborative solution finding conversation. Can we put that in our schedule for a time tomorrow that we could both be in a good frame of mind? So you can prepare those conversations and ask for clarity around setting that up. So trying not to let your frustration get to the point where you are just blowing up at the person. Because coming to the person going, oh my God, you da 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 da, and this and this and that, really reaming on your partner. Most of us honestly switch off when we hear the tone of voice. We hear it coming at us like we've done something wrong. We just switch off. We're not even listening. So that kind of communicating, even though you're using your words, you could say, I'm using my words right now. It's not going to come across if you are, bringing that energy of blowing up at someone. So we have our passive listening. We have our active solution-focused listening. Another one that comes up in, for me a lot is kind of I would like to go through my thought process and I'd like you to witness that, like a witnessing, listening kind of thing. Would you be okay if I ran through my to-do list with you just so I can talk it through? It'll help me get clarity on this. That's another one where you're asking the other person kind of to be passive but witnessing, so kind of just being there, because that can help some of us, especially those of us with minds that kind of go all over the place and get scattered easily. If we can say it to a person, it helps. It's like, okay, I was thinking to go here and then do this, and then we probably need to have these things for the dinner tonight, and I think this one will work better, and maybe we shouldn't cook that, but maybe we should, like, now I'm kind of having a conversation with myself, but I've included my significant other in this conversation that I'm having with myself. And I actually don't really want too much input from them because I'm mostly trying to sort out my own thoughts. So that is a different type of listening, a kind of witnessing. And that can be really helpful if your partner is willing and able to do that kind of listening. All of these types of listening, by the way, take practice. And it takes practice to know what type of listening you want. And so it is really helpful as the listener, maybe if your partner's coming forward with a conversation or with some request, that you say, what type of listening would you like me to do right now? Would you like me to just passively listen? Would you like me, to have input in the solution making? Or would you like me to just witness your conversation with yourself so you can come to some clarity? And, there's also probably conversations where I know sometimes I want validation. So I'm feeling a little bit low confidence, and I want my partner to validate what I'm doing, basically just say, you're doing well, good job. I know that it seems hard right now, but you're going to make it through. It's kind of the coach. I want the coach there. I want that person to say, you've worked really hard and it doesn't look like anything's happening right now, but you know what? Sometimes it takes time. I want my partner to step in as the coach. I don't want them to be negative. I want just the positive because I'm already doing my own negative stuff enough. So this is another kind of thing. Hey, I'd love to have some validation right now. I'm feeling lack of confidence. I'm wondering if you can just help me see the positive in this and give me some positive feedback so I can feel that I'm getting somewhere and that I'm doing well. And, it's kind of the feedback that I've heard ChatGPT is really good at. They're kind of like, that's great. You must have had a hard day, but that's great. Should I give you prompts to think about, right? It's that kind of positive feedback. And I would say that, if you can ask for that and your partner can offer that. Some people aren't so great at being a coach, and, not everyone has those skills. So that might be something that if your partner that you're asking for doesn't have those types of coaching skills in their conversation wheelhouse, maybe it'd be better to ask your good friend who's really good at that, or your therapist who might be able to help with that, rather than going to your partner who maybe is kind of lost when you're feeling a lack of confidence. Maybe it pulls them down. I don't know. It's one of those things where you kind of have to see if your partner is going to have any or all of these skill sets. And they're all different, right? Being the witness is very different from being the coach, is very different from being a passive listener to someone who's chatty, is very different from a solution focused, colleague who's kind of like, business partner almost kind of thing. Let's hash out a good solution for this. All of those require very different types of conversations. So the type of conversation you want to have and the kind of communication you want and the kind of listening and or feedback that you want is really key to figure out for yourself what it is you're asking for and what you're expecting from your partner. Because if you come in with a conversation where you really want a solution focused conversation with your partner, you want some good ideas from them, and they just passively listen and go, whatever you like, honey. Like, it's going to infuriate you, right? You're going to be like, what? I want you to be part of this partnership. And you're going to get really upset because they're not putting their 2 cents in. But maybe they think that's what you want. And another time when you come forward and you're like, oh my God, I had the best day and I just did this and that. And, and they're like, oh yeah, I could see how you could have really made the most of that day if you'd done this and that. And they try to give you a problem solving answer and you just wanted them to listen. Now you're going to be frustrated at them again. So this happens so much in couples, between couples, because we just misread the cue of what our partner is wanting as far as listening. Now, here's the other side of the coin. If somebody approaches us with a type of conversation and we aren't in the mood or can't do that type of listening that they're asking for, or that type of, collaboration, being able to say, what I hear is that you want a witness right now to go through all of your thought process. I'm really sorry, but I've had a very long day and I don't think I can actually witness that right now. My brain is fried. I wonder if, we could do that tomorrow, or if you could find anyone else to kind of go through all of that with you, because I'm not able to do that right now. That would be helpful. It might not be what your partner wants to hear in the moment, but it might be helpful. There's many, many ways. I mean, part of being in a couple relationship, or in a relationship with anyone, whether it's more than a couple or just a couple, is also brainstorming some other ideas. So like if you want to talk through your thought process and your partner isn't up for it, recording yourself, there's plenty of device apps and things that will do voice recordings now. You could just record yourself talking it through, and you can probably, I'm not a big AI person, but you could probably record your thoughts and ask AI to put it in a coherent, list for you or something like that, or just talk it through and play it back to yourself and go, oh yeah, that was a good idea. No, I shouldn't do that there. No, I agree with myself there. Like you could play it back, and you actually wouldn't need your partner to be there at all. Now, does that mean that I'm advocating for us having AI relationships and leaving our actual human relationships? No, it's not. But I think part of being human is knowing our limitations and knowing what we're good at. And if you want a type of talking that your partner isn't able to fulfill at that time, either finding another way to do it, someone else to ask, or making a time to do it when you both can be in the right headspace is really important, and probably one of the biggest communication level ups that you can do in your relationship. Now, I did promise that we would talk a little bit about if talking's really not your thing and you find it hard to express yourself. I had some amazing breakthroughs using improv and clowning and acting out, and not acting out in a bad way, but like acting out my thoughts, like an interpretive dance kind of thing. And I know that's a bit off the wall, but we do it all the time. We're reading body language. And a lot of time we're reading body language more than we're listening to the words. And so if, I had one couple and I offered them the idea that if they were having trouble expressing to each other what kind of mood they were in right then, that they say, okay, you've got 2 minutes to act out your mood right now, and I'm going to watch and see if I can catch the drift of where you're at right now. And one of them would walk across and maybe head down, shoulders slumped, kind of depressed or whatever, and you could pretty much pick up what kind of mood they were in just from that 1 minute, even 30 seconds of them acting it out. And then the other partner had a turn. Okay, now it's your turn to act out how you're feeling. And they, acted out like jumping up and down and or whatever they acted out. And you could be like, okay, I kind of get where you're at. And it gave you a sense of where your partner was at and where you were at without having to talk at all. It's kind of like the picture is worth 1,000 words kind of thing. And if a picture is your acting, your body language, your body, how it's looking, your partner can pick up a lot from that, assuming that they read your body language somewhat correctly. They'll probably get a sense of what you're feeling. And you might not even have to talk about it. You might go, oh, okay, you're feeling slow and inward and, kind of low energy. And I'm feeling like off the wall, excited and bouncy. Okay, why don't you sit down and have a cup of tea, and I'm going to go for a run, and I'll see you in half an hour. Maybe we can recheck how we're feeling after we've taken care of how we are feeling ourselves, rather than expecting our partner to join us in whatever mood or energy we're in. So you could try that, especially if you're kind of the creative type, or, a little bit, you like having fun with acting out. Acting how you're feeling can be really awesome. And things like, reaching out to your partner, or just bringing your hands back to your own chest. Those are two very, very evocative gestures. So when I reach out to my partner, this is I'm reaching out. And when I bring my hands to myself, I'm coming back to myself. And we actually need both of those expressions. We need to reach out towards the other person, and we need to also hold ourselves. So sometimes just having a little back and forth, like I'm reaching and you're taking in, and then you're reaching and I'm taking in. Maybe we both reach together and we touch fingers and we both take in, and we, going back and forth with the reaching and taking in. It's important that we can do both, that we're, one partner is not always reaching for the other one and the other one taking in, right? That would be very one-sided. So actually going back and forth, how comfortable are you reaching out? How comfortable are you taking in your partner's love and good wishes and care? And then can you reach out again, and can you take it in? And going back and forth this way, you could have a whole conversation starting like that, and maybe you just go back and forth with gestures, and that could be a whole conversation that would be very telling about your whole intimate relationship, I would say. And that actually is something we did practice in physical theater school, just to kind of get a sense of the back and forth of energy with someone. So no words required. In fact, the words actually get in the way there. And it's amazing how much you can really get from that, and where you feel your discomfort coming up that maybe you mask with the words that you're using. So every time you feel uncomfortable reaching out, you start talking too much and you push your partner away. But maybe if you just worked on reaching out and, asking for help sometimes, or just reaching out for connection without talking, you might allow yourself to begin to get more comfortable with that. So this is where the somatic, the body-centered therapies can really be helpful in couples therapy, because we get underneath the words. And I'm not saying the words aren't important. That whole first part of the podcast today is really important. We need to be able to communicate well. And if you have difficulty finding the right words, practicing talking, practice writing, practice finding the words that really express yourself well is very helpful. And this whole body stuff needs to also be in there. And especially because, when our words and our body language don't seem to match up, this leads to people saying, well, I'm getting mixed messages. And that is one of the most detrimental aspects of a relationship. If you're, say that you really want to be there for your partner, but you never make the time to talk to them, or you never kind of do something, or you say, hey, I don't care whether you come or not, but your body language says that you do care. It's all of that nuanced stuff. So practicing both, actually, the words and the body language stuff together, so that you really get very clear about what it is that you're wanting, where you're at, where you have the capacity to be flexible with your partner, and when you don't. And if you find that you're not having much flexibility or ability to be there for your partner, are you willing to look at that and see if there's something that you maybe need to allow yourself more compassion, more time, take it easy in your work life or your, other chores, so that you can find time to show up for your partner. So I know we kind of dove into many topics today, and communication is just so key to all good relationships, that I actually really enjoy working with couples and with people as they learn to communicate, both with words and finding the words and using their words, as well as finding their body desires and goals and intentions and all the stuff that we maybe don't want to show but really need to, is awesome as well. So I hope that's been a little bit enlightening for you, and I hope that you will take some time to consider how you communicate, both through words and through your body today. And again, if you are interested in finding out more about my work or reaching out, you can find my website at www.pleasureforhealth.com, and I'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much for joining me today.